Today, we're going to talk about 10 things that surprise people when they're buying a house here in Tennessee. So it's probably no surprise that many of my clients come from out of state, they're relocating here, and there are actually a lot of things that are a surprise here in Tennessee as compared to some of the places where they're moving from. As you can imagine, we get a lot of people from California, Illinois, New York, Arizona, and things are just a little bit different here. And so there might be some surprises when you're buying a home here. So today we're going to talk about what some of those things are. Now, if this is your first time visiting my channel, my name is Jennifer Gramling. I'm a real estate agent here in Nashville and the surrounding area. I just put out videos trying to get you more familiar with Nashville. If you're thinking about moving here or relocating, this is going to be a great channel for you. So be sure to subscribe. And like I said, I am an agent in the area. So if you have questions at all about moving here or relocating, be sure to reach out to me. You can find all my contact information in the description. You can call, text, email, however you'd like to get in touch. We'd be glad to get any and all of your questions answered about moving here to the Nashville area. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into what some of these things are that could be a surprise to you if you're moving here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about, you may have heard me talk about before, but it's definitely worth mentioning again if you haven't seen my other videos. One thing that you should definitely pay attention to is that some cities, some towns where you might be considering buying a house will cross over county lines. So for instance, there are parts of Mount Juliet that are in both Davidson and Wilson County. There's parts of Brentwood that are in both Davidson and Williamson County. There are parts of Nashville that are in Williamson and Davidson County. And this makes a huge difference. So it is something that you are going to want to pay attention to. Your county is the thing that is going to determine a lot of different things, like your property taxes, like your schools that you're zoned for, whether or not you can Airbnb or short-term rent a property, different building codes and zoning ordinances. If any of these things are important to you, you are definitely going to want to pay attention to the different counties. There are even neighborhoods that will cross over county lines. So for instance, in Nolensville, there is a neighborhood that half of the neighborhood is in Williamson County, zoned for certain schools, and the other half is zoned for Davidson County schools, different schools all together within the same neighborhood. So this is going to be something that you want to be on the same page with your agent about and just understanding what your goals are. If you want to be in a certain county for certain schools, you're going to want to pay attention to that when you're purchasing your home. Just because the mailing address may be one city doesn't necessarily mean that that's the county that you're wanting to be in. So it's just something to pay attention to and look for. I've seen multiple posts on Facebook groups with people saying that they moved here, went to go register for their school, thought they were going to be zoned for one school, but in all actuality, they were in a different county and were zoned for completely different schools than what they thought they were zoned for. Also, as I mentioned, there are certain counties like Sumner County where Airbnbs are completely banned. So if you're wanting to buy a property and short-term rent it, your county matters. So just pay attention to this. And this is something that your agent should be able to educate you on and keep you in the loop on, but just something to be aware of that just because your mailing address is a particular city, you do also want to pay attention to what that county is. Okay, and the second thing that might be new to people is step systems. So there are some neighborhoods that are on step systems. So a lot of people don't know what this is when they're moving here. They maybe haven't heard of it before. If you've only been on city sewer, then you may not know. Most people are familiar with what a septic system is. So basically a step system is just like a really large septic system and it's for the entire neighborhood. So you don't have your own separate septic on your property to pump. This especially can happen outside of city limits in some of the little bit more rural locations, but not necessarily. Even in a lot of new developments, some of these will be on a step system, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But the important thing to know is that these are usually maintained by the HOA. So a lot of people get worried about having a septic, having to maintain it, take care of it, and all those different things. So if you're looking at a property and it says it's on a step system, yes, it is a septic system, so they don't have that city sewer coming in there, but really it's not something that you're going to have to maintain. So there's basically a large septic for the entire neighborhood. You have a certain piece of it on your property, but then it all flows to one big septic that the HOA will maintain. So you really don't have to think about it much. It's really not a big deal at all. Very simple and easy and nothing extra for you to do. And it might cost you a lot less than being on that city sewer as well. So this can actually be an added bonus if you're buying somewhere with a step system. Might be a little less cost for you and really not much to maintain like being on a regular septic. The third thing to know when buying here is that we have really rocky soil here in Tennessee. A lot of people people don't know this and they wonder why you don't see as many basements here, and that really is the result of that. So you're not going to see a ton of basements here in Tennessee, and you're not going to see tons and tons of pools like you will in some other areas. As you can see, our soil here can be straight rock, and builders don't know until they're building if what they're going to be digging into is going to be sheer rock like this. So really the only time that you're going to see basements for the most part here in Tennessee is going to be when your home is built on a slope and you can have that walkout basement and it's built right into the foundation of the house and they don't have to blast into the ground to get you that basement. That's why they're just not that common. So if you are looking and you're wanting something with a basement, something that's in an area that's a little bit more hilly, a little bit more rolling, you're gonna have a lot more opportunity to get one of those basement homes. They are a little bit more few and far between, so people really do love basements when they're moving here, so you kind of have to be on the lookout for those and grab them quick when they come up, but you can find them. They're just a little bit harder to come by. And again, same with the pools. Pools can be really expensive to build. If you really want a pool, it's a really good idea to look for a home that already has a pool that you love, that's gonna save you a lot of trouble and a lot of money in putting one in. You can absolutely put one in, obviously depending on the lot, building restrictions and all of those things, but sometimes it can just get kind of costly. So if they do hit rock when they're building and they have to come in and start blasting through that rock, it can get really expensive. So it's just something to keep in mind. If either of those things are important to you, that's just some things that you can run into when looking for a basement, a pool, or building either one of those. Okay, and the fourth thing you might notice when buying a home in Tennessee is just going to be the lack of bike paths, running paths, bike lanes on the roads, and sidewalks in neighborhoods. So these are things that I think that people take for granted in some other cities or places where they might live, especially if you're seeing much older neighborhoods or even just neighborhoods that are 10 years or older. You may not find tons and tons of sidewalks, biking paths, and just the infrastructure for all of those running and biking paths like you might have in some other cities. So I will say that Brentwood and parts of Franklin are probably the best for having those built-in bike lanes into the roads and the bike paths that go in and throughout the city. Now there are more, especially in some of the newer neighborhoods and things that are being built. They are really good about putting in those walking paths and walking trails that go through all the neighborhoods. But there are a lot of county roads and things that connect the neighborhoods in some of these towns, even in parts of Brentwood and Franklin, where the road really almost has no shoulder. So if you haven't seen it, they are kind of windy and they are kind of hilly, and they just don't have a lot of shoulder and not a lot of room for bikes. And so it can be, in my opinion, kind of dangerous to ride on those roads. People do still ride on them, and it really would be a beautiful ride, but sometimes there's not a lot of visibility as you're coming up and over hills on winding roads, so ride at your own caution. But if riding and biking and running, if all of these things are super important to you, you're going to want to pay attention to where you're buying. So if you want to go for a 10-mile run every day, or you're training for marathons all the time, and you need those long distance runs, those long distance bike paths in order to be able to accomplish your goals, then you're just going to want to keep that in mind where you're buying and where you're looking for a home. There are a lot of great options, but certainly you could end up buying somewhere where you might not have as many and you might not be as happy. So it's something that you're going to want to pay attention to if these things are important to you. Okay, and the fifth thing, kind of piggybacking off of that, is going to be that there's still just lots and lots of rural land in Tennessee. So where you're coming from, there might be neighborhood after neighborhood that you're having to drive through to get to the store and sitting in traffic and all those things. And you're probably going to have less of that in some of the areas here, certainly not closer into downtown or the more congested areas. But the further you get out from the city and a lot of the suburbs, you're going to run into still lots of rural land. So you may have to drive through that to get to the store. So you may feel like you're driving forever, but really it's only taking you 10 minutes, but you're not sitting in that traffic. So it trips people up a lot and they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so far out here. I'm so far out in the country, when really you're only about 10 minutes from the store. But 10 minutes when you're driving on country roads feels a lot different than if you're driving 10 minutes sitting in traffic. You might only be 3 miles from the store at the home that you're at now, but it takes you 15 minutes to get there. Here, you might be 5 miles from the store and it takes you 10 minutes because it's a 30-mile-per-hour road going around hills and curves and through that rural land. But it is really pretty. So if you can sit back, relax, and take in all that beauty while you're driving, it's actually a really pretty drive to get to places, but still lots of undeveloped land. And you will hear a lot of people complaining, obviously, about how a lot of this beautiful land is going away and being built on, which is definitely true. There's some spots that I have seen that have gone away and become neighborhoods, which makes me a little bit sad because some of those spots truly are beautiful. But really, a lot of the building is just centralized in some smaller pockets. There's still lots and lots of rural land out here in Tennessee. So if you want to get out and be in some of that rural area and live out that direction, there's still plenty of room to get out, to get away from the city, to get away from the congestion, and all those neighborhoods. There's still lots of rural land to take advantage of in Tennessee. Okay, so the sixth thing people are surprised by here is going to be the property taxes. So everyone knows for the most part that Tennessee has no income tax, but still people are surprised almost every time I tell them what our property tax rate is. I can go through and explain to you how you calculate this. This is just going to be a round ballpark number, but basically your tax rate here is going to be about 0.5% of the value of the home. So if you've got a $600,000 house, you're looking at about $3,000 in property taxes for that year. Now, the way they actually arrive at that number isn't that 0.5, but you take the value of the house and then you multiply that by a quarter, and then you multiply that number by whatever your tax rate is. So that's obviously going to be different in different counties and cities, but generally it's right around 2%, give or take, and that's how they arrive at that number. But again, just ballpark, if you're estimating, you're probably going to be somewhere around 0.5%. And so again, that's about $3,000 on a $600,000 home, and it's going to be about $5,000 on $1 million home. So I do know people coming from especially places like Illinois, New York, California, Texas, who are blown away by our taxes. Even if they did nothing else different, they're saving thousands of dollars a year just on their property tax here. They can't believe it. They're blown away. If you want more information on that, I can certainly send that to you, but that's just kind of a ballpark figure. Helps you understand a little bit about what those property taxes would be on a property for you here. Okay, and the seventh thing that surprises people when they're moving here is just the cost of homes themselves. So while our property taxes are lower, definitely the prices of our homes in Tennessee are going up. We've got a lot of people moving here, coming from out of state. Prices have been going up over the last several years, and the appreciation in some of these cities is just off the charts. So if you're wanting to be in some of these more popular suburbs, closer in towards some of these cities, it's definitely going to cost you, and there's just going to be a higher price tag on some of those more desirable areas where a lot of other people are moving. Now, that's not to say that there are not deals to be had, especially now. New builds are moving very quickly. Some resale homes, especially if they need work, there are some deals to be had out there right now. But for the most part, prices are holding steady because the demand just continues to go up and our inventory continues to stay low. But all that being said, there are places where you can still go and get a house for very inexpensive in more rural parts of Tennessee. And obviously, the further you get out from some of these city centers, the better the prices are going to be. So if you're selling your home in California and you're moving here with cash and you want to buy something for $400,000 cash, you can definitely accomplish that in Tennessee. So just something to keep in mind. There's a huge variety of different homes in all of Tennessee. So you can find a lot more expensive homes and smaller homes on that lower end in and throughout Tennessee. Just need to find a great agent to help you do that. Okay, and the eighth thing that surprises some people is just that there aren't as many new construction homes as they may have thought. So there are areas that have more than others, but I think people are just surprised because they'll want to look in a particular town or city, and there may only be one new build community going in that city at that time, which surprises people. But some of these towns are, number one, just a little bit smaller. So development there is going a little bit slower. Some of these towns and municipalities are trying to limit some of the building and definitely limit some of the density of some of the neighborhoods. So that makes them go in a little bit slower. They're trying to keep up with infrastructure and make sure that they're not overbuilding. So if you're looking in a particular town and suddenly you find out there's really only one option for a new build community, sometimes that's just the way it goes. There are some larger cities and things where there's more neighborhoods going in and being built all at the same time, but I do frequently have people surprised, especially in certain price points, that there may be one or even no new build communities going in that price point at that time in that particular city. So, and the other thing to note with those new build communities, which I alluded to a little bit earlier, is that new builds are still selling really fast here in Tennessee. So again, our inventory is still very limited. We're still at historic lows when it comes to inventory. So builders right now are still having some of the best years that they've had because of that limited inventory, and they're still just selling away and lots are just continuing to go. So if you have new build communities that you're interested in, it's important to keep up with those because those lots still are selling very quickly. And these new build communities, while they start going up, they do sell out fairly fast, especially if they're priced right. So it's just something to keep up with and be aware of. Okay, the ninth thing that surprises people, and this is a good one, is just how friendly friendly people are. So people here in Tennessee are really, really friendly. And I've had multiple people, especially moving from some of those Northeast coast, who get really thrown off by how friendly people are. As a matter of fact, I have people from the West Coast as well who are kind of thrown off by it and said it almost gave them anxiety with people trying to talk to them and be friendly with them and just chatting with them. And they're just not used to that and they just didn't understand it. And legitimately, people from the Northeast have told me that when someone talks to you, at least where they're from, that they want something, that there's a hidden agenda. And so people just talking to them and being friendly came with a lot of suspicion. So it took them some time to get over that. We all just look at it as a good thing. People are friendly, they wave and say hi, but for some people, it does just cause anxiety and it's a very different dynamic. So just know if someone's waving at you, if someone's talking to you in the grocery store, if you're standing there and your checker is just talking away, that's just normal. That's how people do it around here. They're just friendly. They like to talk. So it's just something to get used to. Okay. And the 10th thing that surprises people when they're moving here is that not everyone listens to country music. That's right. I know it's shocking, but not everyone listens to country music here. And not only is country music produced here in Tennessee, but tons of other genres are made and enjoyed here in Tennessee. So anywhere you go, you can find tons of, yes, country, but also blues, jazz, rock, all kinds of genres you can find to listen to. There's phenomenal bars, listening rooms, writers' rounds, everything for you to go and explore. If you enjoy music and you just love listening to it, you can certainly go find any type of music that you like and enjoy that here in Tennessee. There's also tons and tons of fantastic music venues to go see concerts, bars, all those things. So lots of opportunities to enjoy lots of music here in Tennessee, and it does not have to be country. So that's a few of the things that surprise people when they're moving here to Tennessee. There's a lot of things that are going to be different from maybe where you're coming from. They probably do things a little bit differently here in Tennessee, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that people have to acclimate to, but these are some of the things that jump out to people when they're first moving here. Let me know in the comments, is there something that jumped out to you when you moved or visited Tennessee that really stood out to you as being different from somewhere else? Would love to hear that in the comments. And also, like I said, we do a lot of neighborhood tours and city tours on this channel. So if there's a neighborhood or a city, a topic that you want covered, be sure to drop that as well in the comments and we'll try to get that video made as well. We've got a lot of great videos coming up, a lot more good content coming out to you. So be sure, of course, like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can be the first to see these videos coming out. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions at all about Nashville. If you need an agent in Knoxville or Chattanooga, Memphis, I have some great agents in those areas as well that I can refer you to. So be sure to reach out to me for that. And of course, contact me if you're looking in the Nashville area. Happy to help you. So just be sure to reach out. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next video.